Good morning, everyone, and welcome in to A to Z Sports Titan Game Day Morning Live. It's good to see everyone piling in this morning. I'm Luke Worsham, Titans reporter for A to Z Sports Nashville, and it is a thrill to be with you this morning, breaking down the Titans matchup later this morning, or I suppose this afternoon in the Big Apple, New York City, against the New York Jets. You know, technically, I suppose they will be in New Jersey, not in the Big Apple, but we can call it the Big Apple nonetheless because they are the New York Jets. So let me fill you in on what we're going to be doing this morning on the show, as we do every week on Titan Game Day Morning Live. We will be going over 3 keys to a Titans victory today, that being against the Jets. And we will close out today with our best bet of the game. And that is brought to you, of course, by DraftKings Sportsbook. We're also brought to you today on Titan Game Day Morning Live by Two Rivers Ford and the Gary Ashton team at Remax Advantage. A lot of comments piling in. Good morning to John. Good morning to Brad. Clayton Smith said, did Marcus Johnson get activated? No, he did not. He will not be playing today. He is still technically on injured reserve, though he has entered the window to practice and return within the next, it's a 21-day window. Good morning, Steven. Good morning, Lane. All right, guys. Time to get into key number 1. Lane says, who's Luke going to saw down this morning? The only thing I'll be sawing down this morning is probably the New York Jets. I saw another comment talk about hoping Luke makes us feel less like this is going to be a trap game. I don't think it's going to be a trap game. And so let's get into some ways that the Titans can keep it from being a trap game. Key number 1 to a Titans victory today is that the Titans need to create turnovers on defense. This was a huge theme of the week for the Titans at practice in talking to players and coaches. Everyone over and over and over again stressed that the Titans need to get turnovers. Through the first 3 games of the season, the Titans have just 1 turnover on defense, and it was that Kevin Byard interception of Kyler Murray in week 1, and a game that the Titans got destroyed. So ultimately, that turnover was pretty meaningless. The team leader on the Titans right now in forced fumbles is actually right tackle David Quesenberry, who knocked the ball out after a Ryan Tannehill interception against the Colts last week. And Mike Vrabel reminded the team of that over and over again. And that's something that needs to change this week when it comes to the Titans, especially against a team like the Jets with rookie quarterback Zach Wilson, who has been so prone to turning the football over. Now, here's the thing about turnovers that you have to keep in mind as we sit here and talk about how the Titans need to get some turnovers if they want to win this week. A lot of times with interceptions, unless it is a crazy acrobatic play like Antonio Cromartie with the Chargers years ago, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, just type in YouTube Antonio Cromartie interception, and it will certainly pull up for you. But unless it's an acrobatic athletic play like that, to get an interception, the quarterback has to throw it to you, right? There's something to be said about being in the right place at the right time and having good coverage, but especially for a team like the Titans that plays a lot of man coverage when those opportunities are sort of few and far between, it can be difficult to get interceptions. And so what the Titans need to focus on, and what they have said they're focused on all week, is forced fumbles. That's what just about every player in the front 7 said they want to do this week. Vrabel said that, they're getting tickets to the raffle. They're getting those opportunities to strip the ball out, but they're not taking advantage of those opportunities. And I agree with Vrabel, and I agree with all of the players, that forced fumbles is going to be the way to improve the turnover margin if you're the Titans. I talked to Rashaan Evans about that. I asked him, how do you force fumbles? Like, what does that look like? And he said, well, a lot of times it's the second guy who gets there on a tackle. The first guy wraps up, second guy can come in and start, ripping at the ball and trying to get the ball out that way. And I think Evans is right. And I think that needs to be something that the Titans defense, especially in the front 7, really keys in on this week, because you just don't win football games as when you don't turn the ball over as a defense. And what's really interesting, right, is the fact that in 2020, when the Titans were super, super bad on defense, they were number one in the league in turnover margin. The Titans in 2020 were tops in the entire NFL in turnover margin. So now you jump ahead to 2021. The third down defense is much improved. We're seeing this group have a pass rush. Finally, Ryan Fields mentions Harold Landry. Harold Landry's been playing really, really well for the Titans through the first 3 games of the season. They held the Colts to 3 of 13 on third down. That's less than 25%. The defense is playing very well. They just need to add this element to their game, especially, again, against a team like the Jets that has really struggled to hold on to the football. And one more quote I'll give you about this topic is Kevin Byard was asked about this issue, about turnovers. And he said, look, we're finding ways to win without getting turnovers. The Titans are 2-1. They're playing good defense. But if we're able to get turnovers, Byard said, that's just going to elevate our game even further. And so I think that getting turnovers on defense, forcing some fumbles, if you're the second guy to get there, if you're a Rashaan Evans, a David Long, Jayon Brown, and you're the second guy to get there on a tackle, rip the ball out and keep an eye out for that today. Because, again, the Titans talked about all week how that's something that they want to focus and key in on. And so look for that. Look for a lot of Titans players to be ripping and punching at the ball today. And based off of that, I want to ask you guys a question because I see a lot of discussion going on in the chat about turnovers, about some players you think will be able to get turnovers. And so this week on the morning show, when I was filling in for Zach, we asked you guys how many turnovers you guys want the Titans to get. I'm going to ask you a different question now. I want you guys to give me the player that you think needs to step up and give the Titans a turnover. Who do you think it's going to be to step up and give the Titans a turnover in this game? I want to hear what you think about that. Titan Game Day Morning Live on A to Z Sports. I'm Luke Worsham, Titans reporter for A to Z Sports, coming to you ahead of Titans versus Jets. We are brought to you on Titan Game Day Morning by Two Rivers Ford, Remax Advantage, and DraftKings Sportsbooks. We will get to your comments in just one moment. Again, I want to know who you guys think needs to step up and get a turnover for the Titans on defense today. But first, before we get to those comments, I want to talk to you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford. And as I talk about every week on Titan Game Day Morning Live, my favorite part about Two Rivers Ford is that they have non-commission salespeople. Because you know what you get at a car dealership or really anywhere when you have commission salespeople? You get pestered. Right, you walk into the store and you get harassed from the moment you're in there. There's all this really uncomfortable awkwardness and pressure. You feel like you're getting baited into something a lot of times. And if you decide you don't want whatever it is you're looking at, whether it's a car or something else, you start to feel bad, right? Because you know that this person, again, is a commission salesperson and their livelihood is based on their ability to close the deal and make sales. And it's just an uncomfortable experience for everyone. But again, at Two Rivers Ford, they have non-commissioned salespeople. So when you walk into Two Rivers Ford, you're not going to get harassed, right? It's not going to be an experience like that. It's going to be a comfortable car buying experience. You're not going to get pressured or pestered into doing anything. You're going to feel comfortable with the decision you make. Another great thing about Two Rivers Ford is that if you go in and you look around and they've got, or there's a model or a color that you want that they don't have on the lot, that they don't have in stock, they'll get it for you. They will make the custom order for you. That's why Two Rivers Ford is where you need to go if you are looking to upgrade or buy a new car. So give them a shout at Two Rivers Ford by calling 800-900-1000. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about a player who needs to step up and get a turnover for the Titans today. I see a few people saying Rashaan Evans. That's what Abdul says. Corey Smith says Rashaan Evans. Trevor says Rashaan Evans needs to start making plays in a contract year. I 100% agree with that. Rashaan Evans has not been very good to start this season. In fact, if you look back to the Titans game against the Colts, a lot of those big Jonathan Taylor runs that the Colts were getting, a lot of those didn't have anything to do with Danico Autry or Jeffrey Simmons. What those had to do with most of the time was Rashaan Evans running into the complete wrong gap. Evans really struggling, and I agree he definitely needs to step it up. Kedrick says Jackrabbit Jenkins needs to step it up for the Titans today and get a turnover. Terry says Kevin Byard. Will says Christian Fulton. Justin says Jayon Brown. Kedrick also says David Long will get a strip fumble today. David Long, someone who's playing really good football for the Titans right now. Lane says Jeffrey Simmons. I see another Jackrabbit. And Lucas says Christian Fulton. A lot of good ideas there. I think that you guys, for the most part, other than Evans, named some of the high-impact defensive players that the Titans have. And so it will be interesting to see if any of those players are able to step it up and create a turnover for the Titans today against the Jets. A to Z Sports, Nashville, Titan Game Day Morning Live. Again, I'm Luke Worsham, Titans reporter for A to Z Sports. Let's get into key number 2 for Titans victory today. We talked about how the defense needs to get a turnover. Let's talk about now how the offense needs to not give a turnover. The Titans offense through 3 games has turned the ball over 7 times. 7 times. And that absolutely cannot happen in the NFL, and you expect to win. In fact, so they turned the ball over 3 times against the Colts on Sunday, and they won. Before that, it had been 15 years since the Tennessee Titans won a game in which they turned the ball over 3 times. And that goes to show just how impossible it is, for the most part, to win a football game when you turn the ball over that many times. That is a trend that the Tennessee Titans needs to absolutely nip in the bud, because they're not going to keep winning if they keep turning the ball over at that alarming of a rate. And what's a little bit concerning about the Titans' turnovers is that they've come in so many different ways, right? You can't really look at the 7 and say, well, I think this one technique issue or this one type of bad decision is causing the problem. A lot of things are going wrong with the Titans' turnovers and interceptions. And so I asked Todd Downing about that this week. I asked him, when you look at those 7 turnovers and there's not really a through line of what's causing them, what do you do? How do you fix it? And Todd Downing, when he was answering my question, you could tell how angry he was at the offense for the fact that they've turned the ball over this many times. He got really, really serious, and he said, we need to start taking this personally, as if when we're protecting the ball, we're protecting our families, our teammates' families, our livelihoods, and our teammates' livelihoods. And he paused and he said, because we are. I think Todd Downing hit it on the nose there, that it's not so much a technique correction. It's not so much hey, go do this differently. For the Titans to fix their turnover problem, it's going to come down to focus. He said, we need to take it seriously. We need to treat that football like it's our wife, like it's our sister, like it's our children, like it's our livelihood. And that type of focus, that type of intentionality mentally is going to be what's necessary for the Titans to nip their turnover problem in the bud. And one of the things the Titans did this week to make that happen is Mike Vrabel added 2 periods or used 2 periods of Wednesday's practice to work solely on turnovers. And every position went and worked during those periods on what they need to improve to fix the turnover problem. I happened to be around the running backs watching Derrick Henry during one of those periods. And Vrabel was actually over there with the running backs. And you saw running backs coach Todd Dews and some of his assistants running with Henry and Jeremy McNichols and Mekhi Sargent, just trying to rip the ball out. This Titans offense has been really, really focused this week on correcting the turnover problem and doing it, like Downing said, through a mental awareness and focus on the problem. And so if the Titans want to beat the Jets this week, they've got to keep the ball to themselves, right? This is not in the 2nd grade where you're told that you have to share the football or share the soccer ball or whatever, and you got to pass it around to all your friends. The Titans need to play keep away today. They need to be selfish and not share with their friends and keep the ball to themselves if they want to beat the Jets today. That's how the Titans can avoid a trap game on offense. A to Z Sports Titan Game Day Morning Live. I'm Luke Worsham, Titans reporter for A to Z Sports Nashville. Thrilled to be with you this morning, breaking down Titans versus Jets. We've gone over our first two keys to a Titans win. Key number one, defense needs to get some turnovers. Key number two, offense needs to not turn the ball over. And we will get to key number three in just one moment. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at the Gary Ashton team at RE/MAX Advantage. You would have to be basically hiding under a rock to not realize how intense, how competitive, and how hot the housing market is, not even just in Nashville, but in Middle Tennessee as a whole. It's a very competitive market. And so when you enter that competition, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, you want to enter that competition with a good game plan. You want to enter that competition with the right knowledge. And the place where you need to go to get that knowledge, to get the game plan, is you need to go to the Gary Ashton team at RE/MAX Advantage, because they're experienced. They have a wealth of knowledge and background and information in the Nashville real estate scene. And no one's going to be able to give you better information, better game plan, better knowledge than the Gary Ashton team. In fact, Gary's slogan is "Don't sell without the intel." And the reason he says don't sell without the intel as his slogan is because he has the intel that you need to buy a home. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, give the Gary Ashton team a shout. You can get your dream address without the stress by going to the Gary Ashton team, and you can get a hold of them by starting at GaryAshton.com. Ethan Ramsey says, sharing is caring, Luke. That's right. I would appreciate if you would share the show. And as I say, when I'm on the morning show, we want to appear in the timelines or news feeds of your friends, family members, or other associates. Now, Lane brings up Corey Davis. I am tempted now to launch into a conversation about, is Corey Davis a wide receiver one? But I will leave that for another game. Former Titans wide receiver Corey Davis facing his former team today in New Jersey. All right, key number three to a Titans win this morning on Titan Game Day Morning Live. We talked about turnovers on both sides of the ball. Now let's talk about big number 22. I feel like every week he is part of our conversation. But this week, the Derrick Henry key is not ride Derrick Henry to a win. The Derrick Henry key is not give him as many carries as you possibly can to get him going. This week, the Derrick Henry key for the Titans is beat the Jets so badly that you can take Derrick Henry out late in the game. The Titans need to get off to a fast start today against the Jets. They need to blow this team out. Because you know what happens when you blow out a team? You get to rest your starters late in the game. And we've had a lot of conversations this week. We had it on the morning show. I've seen people having it on Twitter. Lots of discussion this week about Derrick Henry's workload and is he carrying the ball too many times? Personally, I don't think it's that huge of a deal, but I'm willing to acknowledge that rest for Derrick Henry is certainly not a bad thing if it's not going to affect your ability to win the game. And so my third key for the Titans is to start fast, because if you start fast as the Titans, you build an early lead, and you build on that through the end of the first quarter and the second quarter and the third quarter. Let's say the fourth quarter rolls around and you're the Titans and you have a 3-score lead against the New York Jets. You know who gets to come out of the game at that point? Derrick Henry gets to come out of the game at that point. And that's how you get Derrick Henry rest if you're the Titans. Not load management, not by throwing Jeremy McNichols in needless situations. You get Derrick Henry rest by getting such a big lead that you don't need Derrick Henry anymore. And look, you're not going to blow out everyone in the NFL. It's a very tight, competitive league, but you can blow out the New York Jets. This is arguably the worst team in the NFL. They're 0-3. It's not close. None of those losses were close. They've scored 20 points in 3 games. That is less than a touchdown a game. You need 1 touchdown to beat the New York Jets over the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. And so the Titans, again, need to start fast. This can't be a game where they start slow. And I trust that this is going to happen, right? People talked about a trap game. These aren't really the type of games Mike Vrabel loses. Now, a lot of you might say, well, what about the Bengals last year? Well, the Bengals had Joe Burrow and A.J. Green and had some talent. This New York Jets team is not that Cincinnati Bengals team. The Titans beat teams like the Jets. They beat teams like the Jaguars, who they're going to out of this game. Need to not only beat the Jets, but they need to get such a lead and start so fast that they're able to take Derrick Henry out in the fourth quarter. Brad, I think you make an excellent point here. You put your foot on their neck and you don't let up. 100%. That is what needs to happen for the Titans this week. And so I want to ask you this question, because we're about to transition into our best bet. We're going to go from talking about keys to the game to our best bet. But before we do that, I want to know what you guys think. How many points do the Titans need to be up? Because I know you guys love Derrick Henry, and why not? He's one of the best running backs in the history of the NFL. I'm willing to say that. How many points do the Titans need to be up before you would say, all right, it's time to take Derrick Henry out, give him some rest? Because that's what we're talking about here, right? The Titans need to start fast. They need to get into such a groove that they have a lead and can take Derrick Henry out. So I want to know, how many points do you guys think the Titans need to be up to the point where it is fair for them to take Derrick Henry out and start rolling with Jeremy McNichols and Mekhi Sargent? We will get into those comments in just 1 second. Titan Game Day Morning Live here on A to Z Sports Nashville. I'm Luke Worsham, Titans reporter for A to Z Sports. I want to address this comment very quickly before we keep going. You must not watch the Titans. The lowly Cardinals beat us a few years ago. Ryan, that was under Mike Mularkey and Marcus Mariota. Derrick Henry wasn't even a starting running back then. That's like saying that because the Titans lost to the Texans under Ken Wisenhunt, that means something right now. That's old hat. That's old Tennessee Titans. We're talking about Mike Vrabel. We're talking about Tannehill. We're talking about Derrick Henry. It's a new regime in town these days. All right, comments rolling in. You guys letting me know how many points you think the Titans need to be up before it is fair to take Derrick Henry out of the game. For the most part, everyone seems to be tight at a 3-possession lead. I see a lot of 17. That's what Terry said. That is what Ty said. Ben says 15 plus. So Ben would be comfortable with maybe a 2-possession lead, but a high 2-possession lead at that. Justin says 22. Dean says 21. Sheila says 21. Van says 21. Bobby says 17. 3 scores is a sizable lead. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, Bobby. I tend to think that 17 late, maybe not 17 in the first half, but if you're up 17 going into the fourth quarter, I tend to think that that's probably territory where you can start thinking about taking Derrick Henry out. But I certainly think, as some of you guys are saying, if you get to 28, like Steven is saying here, I certainly think that by that point, it would be more than fair, more than understandable to pull Derrick Henry from the game. All right, guys, Titan Game Day Morning Live here on A to Z Sports. It is time to close out our 3 keys to the game, which again, key number 1, get a turnover on defense. Get lots of turnovers on defense. Key number 2, don't turn the ball over on offense. Key number 3, start fast, get a big lead so you can take Derrick Henry out of the game. Now we're going to transition into our best bet of the game, and that is, of course, brought to you, as always, by DraftKings Sportsbooks. And DraftKings Sportsbooks has a great deal going on for you today. Go to their website, DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Give them the promo code A to Z Sports, and here's what they're going to give you. If you put a $1 bet on any NFL game today with that promo code, you will get $150 in free bets instantly. Again, place a $1 bet, $1 out of your pocket, one George Washington out of your pocket on a game, and you will get $150 in free bets instantly on DraftKings Sportsbooks. That, again, is with the promo code A to Z Sports. And a reminder, you must be 21 years or older and present in Tennessee to bet. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. A to Z Sports Titan Game Day Morning Live. Here is your best bet for today. We are going to keep it simple. Your best bet for the day is simply for the Titans to cover. Your best bet today is simply for the Titans to cover the point spread. The Titans are favored in this game by 6.5, meaning that if the Titans win this game by 1 touchdown, They cover the spread. Just last week, the Titans beat the Indianapolis Colts by 2 scores, by 9 points. And the Indianapolis Colts are significantly steps ahead of the New York Jets. And I know that Vegas likes to give points for home field advantage, but I just don't know that really matters here. So that is why my best bet for you guys and Titans versus Jets is to simply take the Titans to cover the 6.5 point spread. I think the Titans are going to beat the Jets by at least a touchdown today. And so go make yourself some money. Use that promo code A to Z Sports. Again, $1 gets you $150 in free bets with A to Z Sports promo code. And you can do that on DraftKings.com/sportsbooks. All right. I appreciate everyone tuning in this morning. It has been a lot of fun. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the conversation we have been able to have. Right when I get off of here, I will be hopping in the car and heading to Mill Creek Brewing Company, where I will be co-hosting our pregame, halftime, and postgame shows with Austin Stanley. Zach is out today, so I will be stepping into his seat. I look forward to seeing you all again for the pregame show starting at 11:30 Central Time, half an hour before the game. And, of course, tonight, Buck Rising will bring you home at the end of this Titans game day with prime time from the Big Apple. All right, until 11:30 when I will be back to see you all again. Hope everyone has a great afternoon and enjoys the game. We will see you all next time.